So the IRS can see how much you owe, obviously, because that's in their system, but they can also see how much money you have in your bank account. They can see how much money is in your business. They can actually shut down your cash flows entirely. So they can put a freeze on your bank accounts. They can levy things so they can pull money out of your bank accounts. I've actually talked to clients who ignored letters to the point that that actually happened, and this is not an exaggeration. I have seen it happen before, not with my clients, but there are clients who came to me after the fact. And that is why it's important to make sure that you're handling these things up front and not waiting until the end, right? Moving quickly is not something that's an option. You have to move quickly. So the moment that you know there is an issue, you're going to have to get started moving. So the next thing you need to understand is what you are actually dealing with. So just because you owe, you don't want to go into, let me go make a payment. Let me go do this. Let me go do that. What you actually want to do is find out why it is that you owe. Is the amount that you owe, is it valid? Is parts of the amount valid, but maybe other parts are not valid. You need to understand where the debt is coming from, why there is a debt, what you need to do to resolve the debt. All of those things are super important. So you should be looking at the documents that come into you from the IRS. You want to see what are the codes that are on those, because there are codes that are on those letters to tell you what the letter means. It will also describe what the letter means, where the debt are coming is coming from. It'll break down interest. It'll break down penalties. So you need to take a moment to take a look at the letters to make sure that the information is actually valid. Maybe you don't actually owe that amount. Maybe you only owe a partial, a part of the total balance. Maybe you don't owe anything at all. So you don't want to just jump into crisis mode and just start paying, because now you're going to be paying a debt that maybe you don't owe. And I have found clients who have come to me again after the fact, who years ago there was a debt. They actually didn't owe it for one reason or another. They started paying on it, and guess what? The IRS won't give that money back, because the time frame in which they will give refunds back, which is usually 3 years back, has already passed. So the money that they shouldn't have had to pay to begin with, well, not only did they pay it, but they're now not going to get it back. So you don't want to jump into paying it. That's not the solution. The solution is understanding the balance and what it is to see if you actually owe it, see if the balance is valid. And so this is how I would approach it if it was me. I would pull up that notice that I referenced. So when you get a notice from the IRS that tells you that you owe, I would look at that, look at the description, look at the codes. That code would tell you everything that you need to know, what the issue is, how urgent it is, when you need to respond. We use a code finder in our firm that breaks down exactly what the codes mean. And it also helps us to make sure that we're not guessing. So it will tell us how urgently we need to reply, if it's immediate, if we have 30-day time frame, that sort of thing. And then we also look at things like transcripts. So another thing you could do is pull up your transcripts. Go to your IRS account. If you've never gone to your IRS account, you have an IRS account, go to that account, pull up your transcripts, and you can actually see more in detail what those things might be. Now, you might not be able to read the transcripts, and you might need to get some assistance with understanding transcripts or reading transcripts. But the transcripts are going to help you see why you may have owed, what it stemmed from. It's going to give you some more additional details. Uh, I also look at what's called a transcript report, which summarizes all the transcripts. So if it's multiple years, it'll summarize it all into one transcript report and tell me what the balance is, what's owed from year to year, what the penalties are by year, what caused it in different situations. So it gives me all that information. You won't have a transcript report that you can utilize, but you can actually look at the individual transcripts. But definitely take a look at those and get an understanding of what these balances are, why it is that you owe, and how to resolve it. You can look at those transcripts that are going to help you. Again, you can get those from an IRS account. So if you've never gone into an IRS account, you can actually do a search on IRS personal account, and you'll see it come up. And then either set up an account if you've never done it before, or you can actually go into the account if you have set it up before. It takes about 10-15 minutes to set up an account, but then you'll be able to go in and get your transcripts, see your balances, all of those types of things. So that's what I would highly suggest that you do. It'll also show you your balance by years, things like that, what it is that you owe. Now, if you're under audit, that's a whole different thing. I would definitely suggest you get help right away. Don't try to handle that on your own. You need to work with a professional. Um, the only thing that's going to come out of an audit without getting help is you're going to end up owing a whole lot that you actually didn't have to pay. So I highly recommend that you work with someone if you are in audit to get that help. So once you understand what your balances are, the next thing you need to do is you need to get into some sort of payment plan. So there are multiple payment plans. You can pay it in full, which is basically paying that full amount. I highly recommend this because here's the thing. You I would rather you get a loan and pay the IRS off than for you to and then you owe that bank than for you to owe the IRS. And the reason why I would recommend that is the IRS can do things like freeze your bank account, freeze your cash flows, right? Freeze your passports so you can't travel internationally. They can do a lot of things that a bank can't do, right? So I would recommend number one that you work with the bank in that regard. Also, IRS's debt compounds daily. So if you're looking at not paying that off right away, it's going to be compounding quickly. They have interest, they have penalty, they have things like that that are also compounding that are being continually added. And so you're looking at a large amount. Now, at least if you are in with a bank, yes, they're going to also have interest that compounds, but you're not going to have penalty that also is compounded and being added every month as well. So because of all those things, I highly recommend you work with the bank. So again, the first option is you could pay in full. The second thing you could do is you can look at doing an installment agreement. So an installment agreement, they have different terms, short term, they have long term, they have all different types of installment agreements that you can do, collections, different things like that. So you can look at doing some sort of installment agreement with the IRS. The installment agreement is going to help you. So at least they cannot place a levy. So that means they can't go in, put a freeze on your bank account. They can't go in and take money out of your account unless you default or you're not making the payments consistently or something like that. Then they can. Otherwise, they're not going to place a lien, which is just allows them to be in place if you ever sell the asset, right? So if you have a house or something and you sell that house, they want to be in line to get their money. That's what a lien is. So for the lien, they're only gonna put that in place if you're making monthly payments if you owe more than 50,000. So if you owe more than $50,000, they are gonna place a lien no matter what. So a lien is going to come if you owe more than $50,000. You can get that amount under $50,000, and then work on the rest of the payment plan. So there's different things that you can do to avoid the lien, but it's definitely going to avoid the levy. So setting up an installment agreement would actually at least help you. Offering compromises or fresh start programs, a lot. So many of you have talked about that sort of thing, doing an offering compromise, doing a fresh start program. Well, here's the thing. A fresh start program or an offering compromise, whatever it is that you want to call it, those sorts of programs, not everybody qualifies for them, right? So if you are somebody who is looking to do something like an offering compromise, you have to see, first of all, if you can even be approved for it. Is it something that you can apply for yourself? Maybe. I find that even professionals like myself, when we're trying to apply for offering compromises, many of us aren't even successful. So I would probably say someone who is not a professional, you're going to have an even more difficult time applying for an offering compromise. And I think a lot of them will not go through. So I recommend that if you're trying to do an offer, you work with someone, you want to work with someone who is reputable. And I don't recommend large companies because a lot of the large companies that you guys see online, many of them, what they do is they'll charge you an amount, $6,000, $10,000, $8,000, knowing right well from the information you are not going to get qualified for an offer. So how do you get qualified for an offer? the IRS looks at a uh, combination of things. They're looking at how much income you bring in, what your expenses are, but they're also looking at your assets. So if you have assets that have equity, so let's say you have a house and that house has $100,000 in equity and you only owe $50,000, well, you're probably not going to be able to get an offer. Not to say you can't, because they also can't make you sell your house, but a lot of times they will try and get you to refinance the house. I've sometimes seen people still get an offer, even with their house, because what they don't want to do is put you out. So then you're having to get on something like state assistance, federal assistance, right? They don't want you to go onto welfare programs in order to pay them. So they want you to be able to pay them, but still be able to handle all of your other expenses. They're not going to just kick you out of your house. Um, they, but what you're going to have to look at is what are your total assets and what you have in those assets in terms of equity to see if whether or not you would couldn't get approved for an offer and compromise, right? Um, I highly recommend for something like that, you get some support. It's going to really be hard to do something like that on your own. And the last thing is currently not collectible. And basically, it's a financial hardship, right? So, what they're looking at is right now, um, temporarily, you're not able to make the balance. Now, I have seen which means you don't have to make any payments at all. Uh, Basically, while you get on your feet, the clock, um, what we call the clock that determines when your debt expires, which is typically 10 years. There are some exceptions to that because there are things that can extend that time frame, but basically 10 years. And if you are in the not collectible status, and you're not making any payments, guess what? That debt can expire. I actually have some clients right now who are in not collectible status, can't be collected, and their debt is going to expire soon. So if you are somebody who is in not collectible status, that is great if that debt is going to expire. Because it can in fact, yeah, it can in fact expire. So that's another great one, right? It doesn't erase the debt, the balance is still there, but it stops the IRS from coming after you. Again, if the amount's over $50,000, you're still going to see that lien. Business owners going through a rough period, though, this could be great because it could give you some of that breathing room that you need to keep your doors open so you don't have to make any payments, but you can still make money at least so that you can survive, right? Again, the IRS doesn't want to put you onto uh, federal programs where you're needing assistance. So that's an awesome option. The other thing you could do is to do nothing. Now, I highly don't recommend that you do nothing because, again, with your business, the IRS will escalate. If they're not hearing from you, they're going to continue to escalate until they get what it is they're looking for. So they will send lien notices, they will send levy notices, they will start taking money out of your bank accounts. All of these things will happen. You could end up out of business because you won't have any assets, no income, and you won't be able to get any of them. So by the time it gets to the point that your options are so limited and more expensive to resolve this, you might have to shut down. So don't allow it to get to that point. So whether it is that you know how to handle this on your own, or not, understand that if you start dealing with it sooner than later, it's going to allow you to be able to get into a better position to work with the IRS. So again, you want to pull your notices, understand the codes, look at the deadlines, and then you want to move. You want to go into some sort of payment plan option, something that's going to help you get into compliance. And if you're not sure what you're looking at, or the situation seems bigger than you can actually handle, you can always schedule time with us, and we'll be happy to help you. We have a free consultation that you can take part in. Now, drop any comments below if you've been in this situation, if you are in this situation, what have you seen work for you? What has worked? What has not? And again, if you're ready and need some assistance now, be sure to reach out to us. We will be happy to help.